Now, this is now where we come in. We actually help you here. This is where we save you money. So from Amli's perspective, we help you plan and budget. It's always ideal for us for you to be able to start small. You don't have to go to an F64 128 just to get go without understanding and knowing your workload. So we help you through that process where we can be able to kind of measure your usage, and then based on your usage, now we have the ability, and I'll show you guys some of the tools that we use for us to be able to do that. And then it's always ideal to start with that trial period. There's a reason why Microsoft gives us that trial period. It's not just for us to get our feet wet on the Fabric platform, but it's also to your benefit to be able to understand what kind of workload am I using, what kind of processes are my users utilizing. So that duration there, use it. I cannot stress it much further, but use it because it's actually going to help you save money down the road. And then monitor. This is the other thing here that's very important because without monitoring, you're just throwing things to Fabric. So you want to be able to understand what workload that you do have so that now you can be able to use things like, for instance, smoothing. You can be able to use things like, for instance, busting. You can be able to throttle. You can be able to understand that workload, know what's actually really happening to your usage, then that now allows you to be able to determine what works best when it comes to what SKU for my users and what are my users actually doing with the Fabric platform prior to us going in and doing a reservation and then finding out that we reserved F128 and we are only using an F4. So those are some of the things that you want to be aware of. And then manage and optimize your compute. So these are other places where we come in and we help you because you want to optimize your Fabric items as much as possible. So some of the queries that you're running out there, some of your dark statements, being able to know what type of your workload that you do have, and this comes in whether it's operative, whether it's background processes. Those are some of the things that you want to be able to be aware of because now you can be able to optimize that environment better, and we can be able now to figure out which SKU for us, which SKU works best for your environment. Sorry about that. So this here is very important, and that's why also we come into picture because we have tools that allows us to be able to advise you appropriately when it comes to determining what capacity that we can be able to utilize, and I'll show you some of those. So also from the experience perspective, whatever my data scientists are doing is not the same thing that my data engineers are doing. Yes, so whatever my data scientists are doing, it's not what my data engineers are doing. So these Fabric experiences that we do have in the environment, they don't work the same. So you want to be able to understand also from experience perspective, what are my users doing so that I can be able to also optimize that environment and be able to get the best cost possible. Then, of course, you have things like, for instance, your data warehousing, which is a serverless feature and it runs in the background. But you also have to understand that when it comes to billing for features like, for instance, data warehousing, the cost is actually smooth. It's actually smooth for a duration of 24 hours. So just because it's not just because I went ahead and implemented a data warehouse and I provisioned the data warehouse, it's not the provisioned time that I pay for. It's actually based off the activity per query capacity units that we're using that are actually built. So these are some of the workloads that we look at, and we're able to advise you appropriately when it comes to pricing and when it comes to which SKUs for you to be able to use. And then this metric apps, which we will look at here in just a moment. And actually we go a step further and we customize this report so that you can be able to get the best for your buck. And that's actually what we're going to look at here. So if I bring in, so this is actually based on our workload. All right, so we have this one here, which is the capacity metrics. So this is actually an app that we can be able to implement in your environment. And this allows you for you to be able to see what type of usage that you have. This is actually ours. This is what we have within Amli. And we can be able to tell what type of workloads that we're using, how much CUs we're using, capacity units we're using, what's the duration, what type of billable resources how many users are using our environment in that scenario, who's using the environment. So we can be able to see all this information here, so that we can appropriately be able to determine what works best. So this is now from operations perspective. We can look at it from CU perspective. We can look at it from duration perspective. And as you can see, ours, it's not very heavily used, but we have the full understanding of this tool here, where we can be able to advise you appropriately. We can even be able to explore specific durations and be able to get what the interactive operations were, what the background operations were, the burn down and all that, so that we can, again, you can be able to see what is the ideal setup for your environment and be able to determine what's the best SKU for us to be able to utilize. And if I go back, so also from storage perspective, this other piece here that's important for us to also examine and be able to understand. So from storage, I can see here we have cumulative. Our storage keeps going up and up and up and up. So those are some of the pieces there that I would want to go and understand. How are we using our environment? What are we storing in this environment? Even though storage is pretty cheap, and we determined that in the previous slides, but now this also helps me to be able to understand what type of storage are we using in this environment, which workspaces have what storage. So that's some of the pieces that we can be able to do. And as I mentioned, we have the ability to give you much more than the data that you see here. So this report, we can be able to customize it, be able to give you much insights of your environment so that you can make the best decision out of the environment.